Hello there. Hello, how are you? Are you well? I'll tell you something else. As I record this just after midday on Thursday, 23rd of February 2016, the weather is atrocious. Horrendous weather. This is a pre-recorded version of the Richie Allen Show for Thursday. Because of circumstances we can't control, I'll tell you more about that in a second. Pre-recorded today, so no contact details necessary. I think I've got a good show for you, though. Let's get on with it.
For critical information ignored by the mainstream media, log on to davidike.com/headlines now.
Broadcasting the information the mainstream media won't touch. This is The Richie Allen Show in association with DavidIke.com.
Yes, it is The Richie Allen Show in association with DavidIke.com. The computer, the thingamajig, the whatchamacallit, because I don't have very many technical terms, that streams us out live 24 hours a day, has gone kaput. We've ordered a replacement machine. It's got to be a good machine. It should be here tomorrow, Friday. And then that will have to be calibrated with the software for our stream. So in the meantime, I'm doing this pre-recorded today. It's terrific to be doing it. Feels a bit weird doing it pre-recorded. I'm used to live, and live is where I live. I love interacting with you on social media, but we can't do that today. Hey, listen, the weather is unbelievably extreme here in the northwest of the UK. The BBC are saying that parts of the UK are facing 94 miles per hour winds. Storm Doris, they're calling it. Here in Manchester, it is very wild. It's as wild as I remember it being here in the several years I've lived in the city, over 2 different decades. And it is pretty. I'm looking out the window now as I speak with you, and it is horrendously windy. It's scary too, because where we're based in South Manchester, we're surrounded by neighbours with very, very tall trees. Very tall trees. And I worry about that. I worry about a tree coming down. Listen, if you're driving later on this afternoon, it's supposed to be just as bad. So you might be listening to this in the late afternoon in your car. Go easy. Take it easy. Go slow and look after yourself. Don't be silly. Don't be crazy. All right? Drive safe. So yeah, it is Thursday the 23rd. It is just after midday as I record this. When I finish it, something major might develop, something major might break, and you might think, what the hell was old Alan doing? So I'm giving you the heads up as to the time that I'm recording this. I've got a few things I'd like to talk to you about today. Before I do that though, I will mention, even though we're not live, our broadcast partners, davidike.com, bookmark at davidike.com/headlines. Please bookmark that, and do check out Fab Radio 2 in Manchester and alternatecurrentradio.com. 2 terrific platforms. So the weather and the extremities of the weather making the news across the UK today. A couple of other interesting stories as well. The Iraqi forces have seized Mosul airport from Islamic State, as the BBC is reporting. They have features on hunting for extremists with with agents of the Iraqi government. A lot of that going on. And there is an interesting story today being covered by everybody, and it's about net migration. Apparently, net migration to the UK has dropped to 273,000 in the year to September. And apparently that's down 49,000 from the previous year. Now, it's hard to know if that's true or not. Okay? It's hard to know, because at a time when we know that immigration levels were probably the most concerning thing for people who voted in the referendum to leave the European Union, that's the June 23rd last year referendum, I suppose it's fair to say that most people were more concerned about the rising levels of migrants coming to the country. You wouldn't put it past the same people who want a second referendum because they're not happy with the original decision, for them to be spinning the figures and saying things like, oh well, net migration is falling anyway. Now, I'm not saying that's true. I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised, and I'd like to know more about it. It's from the Office for National Statistics, if you can say that. The Office for National Statistics. That's basically the body coming out with that. So those are the stories that are being covered extensively as you and I talk. There's also some story about how eating more vegetables and fruit will lessen the risk that you will get cancer. I mean, Jesus, tell us something we don't know. But all the networks are running with that. Some academic in London, some clinician, some doctor, some scientist has spent millions and millions of pounds of taxpayers' money telling you what you know already. Right? Don't eat so much sugar in your diet. Eat fresh fruits and vegetables. Right? Thanks for telling us that. Now, the reason we're pre-recording is because of streaming issues, buffering and such like. Just to let you know, that's being dealt with, and we should be back streaming without any issues from Sunday, okay, for Sunday View. Listen, just before we move on, this is relevant to a lot of the things I talk about on our daily live radio programme and on Sunday View. Caroline and myself watched Daniel Blake, the Ken Loach film yesterday, and we were very moved by it. It's a terrific film about the grim, I suppose, the very grim reality of the poverty that is in society now all around us, but also how people whom are dependent on state assistance are having their assistance taken away from them by companies outsourced by the government, companies who are looking for reasons to sanction people and screw them out of their entitlements. So it follows a man in Newcastle called Daniel Blake, a nice man, a widower I should say, who was widowed recently, coming to terms with the fact that he's been told he had a heart attack. His heart is not in great shape, and his doctors, his specialists have all said, you can't work for the very near future. You can't work because you're in great danger, grave danger of dying. And anyway, this decision by his doctors, this diagnosis is ignored by the assessors, the benefit assessors, who say that, well, you are fit for work, and they basically strip his disability allowance from him, his sickness allowance from him, and things spiral out of control then. But it's also about the relationship that he has with a young woman who's moved into Newcastle from London with children. She's having a difficult time of it, and he takes care of them because he's a lovely guy. It's a difficult film, very emotional. And while some people might argue, Richie, I doubt very much Ken Loach understands what's really going on there, because we're always very arrogant about assuming what people know and what people don't know. Let me tell you, the film is remarkable because it shows the impact benefit sanctions has on good people, decent people who've worked for years and paid into the system. And on those merits alone, it's a marvellous film, and it also shows us that if we look out for one another, we can stand up to the system. It doesn't mean we'll always beat it. Standing up for one another isn't prerequisite to beating the system, isn't a guarantee that you'll beat the system. But if you stand up to it, you know, you can achieve things. Terrific film. Loach won the BAFTA for Best Director, I think, a few days ago. I recommend the film. Right, now, InfoWars. Now, InfoWars reported this week that the major advertising agency AdRoll suspended its syndication of InfoWars product ads across websites and platforms. InfoWars claiming AdRoll took this action because of InfoWars support for Donald Trump. Now, AdRoll wrote to InfoWars explaining decision, saying that the political content of their website is the reason for the suspension. Now, typically, InfoWars are spinning this with the normal ladles and spoonfuls of bullshit that you'd expect from InfoWars. At no time does AdRoll mention Donald Trump. Okay. InfoWars says the letter implies that the suspension is related to the fake news witch hunt that has been spearheaded by the mainstream media, citing potentially sensitive information that is not accurate. Now, Alex Jones is quoted as saying, and we'll hear from him in a minute, when all these big corporations get together and create black lists of who they want to ban, it's clearly racketeering. So AdRoll wrote to the editor of InfoWars, and I'll read you some of that letter in a second. InfoWars said that through the AdRoll monetization stream, and they have multiple different streams of income coming in, they might lose over $3 million. That's what they said. Now, AdRoll wrote to them saying that they apologise for the lack of communication prior to pausing campaigns. InfoWars has been flagged by the AdRoll policy team, and as a result, campaigns have been suspended. It goes on to say, all content on your website, InfoWars, should be relevant, accurate, informative, and up-to-date. Any claims should be easily verifiable. We are not able to promote websites that intentionally misrepresent their business or use any tactic to falsely enhance reputation or misrepresent actual offerings. Furthermore, all political content should focus on the merits of the candidate, and political messaging should not target special interests or groups or imply affiliations. So that's what AdRoll said. Okay? And they said that since the account was flagged, they can no longer run campaigns and have now gone ahead and suspended those campaigns. So that's what AdRoll said. Now, this is Alex Jones himself with his take on what happened. This is a serious story. This is Alex talking about this the other day.
So this is economic warfare. This isn't saying we're going to protest one sponsor till they drop. That's free speech. This is we're not going to let you have access to the markets, like not letting black people rent a house or buy a house or letting black people vote. This is classical discrimination, and they tell you, and they're always updating their giant contract where you basically waive your rights. They tell you, document cam shot please, in the AdRoll contract, how they can ban you. And they go on to say that you are political and we won't allow any advertising on our platforms that are political. Now, see, they can say that in their terms of service, but not if they take liberal or globalist sponsors, which we've gone and looked. They do. So it's discriminatory. It is a civil rights violation. It is an attempt to bankrupt us. It is an attempt to put us into an electronic and then physical ghetto, because first, before you're physically silenced, you are financially and culturally silenced, and your speech is silenced.
Now, that was Alex Jones. Now, let me say specifically, let me say very clearly, I do not agree that AdRoll should stop running campaigns for InfoWars based on their assertion that InfoWars spreads political propaganda, especially if AdRoll works with other content creators who spread the same propaganda. Now, Jones said there at the end that they went and looked, and they said that AdRoll does work with content creators, he said globalists and liberals with political agendas. But typically of Alex Jones, he didn't name any of them. He made an allegation, but he didn't offer any proof. That's how things roll at InfoWars. We'll throw out accusations and allegations. We won't offer any proof whatsoever. And I'm not saying it isn't the case that AdRoll works with other propagandist type organisations. They might do. Jones might, learn a little bit about journalism, become a better journalist and name them and prove it. So even though, and it's very important you pay attention here, I support Jones' right to say whatever he wants and not be discriminated against. It is ironic that AdRoll's claims about InfoWars are actually true. InfoWars spreads pro-government political propaganda. Ironically, it does. But listen again, I don't support the demonisation of anybody, anywhere. Are you hearing me on that? I don't find it funny. I don't find it amusing that InfoWars have been targeted in this way at all. Now, funnily enough, in the same monologue, the very same monologue, Alex spreads more pro-government, more pro-establishment propaganda because he just can't help himself.
Just to point out that Obama signed a law saying they're going to start restricting free speech. And they've announced all these attacks on free speech. And we need to admit this is happening and understand how serious it is, and understand that Trump has to openly repeal the law that Obama passed or sign executive orders basically blocking it. Because Trump is the greatest victim of the censorship, our president. They're openly saying take away his Twitter. They're only letting you see negative comments in the Twitter. They are, kicking his daughter's clothing line out of stores. And the point is, you can do this here or there, but you can't have a organized, solid wall of this. This is organized, and they've called for it in the news. And this is a program, an operation that they are running against everyone. Now, they're desperate because Trump's trying to turn the economy back on. He's trying to cut taxes for poor people. He's got regulations getting cut for small businesses. He's ordering the Federal Reserve to have small business loans to local businesses. That's why small businesses are exploding right now for the first time since 1984. I covered that news just yesterday. Really good numbers coming in for the little guy for the first time since the Reagan recovery of 1984. That didn't get going until 82, 83. And so they're trying to block this, and the Federal Reserve's trying to block it, so he's trying to change who's in the Federal Reserve, and they are trying to throw him out right now because he's doing that. Now, enter what just happened to InfoWars.
That's just monumental bollocks, that. The Federal Reserve are not trying to get rid of Donald Trump. And again, Jones makes these claims and offers no evidence whatsoever to support them. The Federal Reserve cartel, the banking families, love Donald Trump. Why wouldn't they? He's handed the economy to Goldman Sachs. And this was the man, remember, who, on the campaign trail, derided Clinton for being a Goldman Sachs candidate. Not a word from Alex about that. About the, 14 Goldman Sachs employees now in Trump's cabinet. Nobody is trying to have Trump's Twitter account deleted either, by the way. That's more monumental bollocks by Alex Jones. Nobody. And to say that the real target of all this censorship is Trump himself, that's so ludicrous, it's absolutely painful. Painful. The irony of it. As Trump and his team, and we've said this so many times in recent weeks, put up a wall between them and the media as they trash the media again and again and only give interviews to planted journalists, people they approve of. Alex Jones applauded, as did Muppet-in-Chief Paul Joseph Watson. Didn't I fucking warn this was going to happen? Didn't I? I said it last week, the previous week, the week before that. I've been saying it for a while now. The cretins in the independent media applauding the demonization of the mainstream media by Trump were deluding themselves if they thought they would be exempt from what happened to InfoWars this week. Now, David Icke was on this program on Tuesday. We spoke at length about this, and David eloquently sums up what I've believed and have been saying for a number of weeks now. This is what David said.
When you have running together this fake news attack on the alternative media, where, a conspiracy theorist is a label of contempt, you also have this Trump onslaught on the mainstream media, and he's being cheered on, as you rightly say. And he's being cheered on because much of what he's saying is true. Not all of what he's saying is true in terms of the media, mainstream media being fake news. So he's attacking and seeking to undermine the mainstream media by calling it fake news. And the mainstream media and the authorities in general are targeting the alternative media at the same time, calling it fake news. I mean, talk about a double whammy. And like I say, the outcome they want is censorship of the genuine alternative media based on the fact that it's fake news, just like the real fake news aspect of the alternative media. And that's why the fake news, clickbait, alternative media is so disgusting, because it's giving ammunition to attack the genuine part. And they want rid of genuine journalism in the mainstream. So no quality investigative journalism takes place there.
Absolutely 100% right. And I said this on Sunday View this week. I said those who own 90% of the media cannot control it entirely. They cannot prevent decent journalists, of which there are not too many these days, but of which there are some doing good work, breaking stories which in one way or another show the establishment for what it is. Now, I support free speech for everybody, and I mean everybody. And I condemn any organisation for blocking the route to monetisation of one group, for propaganda, say, while allowing another group to do exactly the same thing. In that, I am in total agreement with Alex Jones. Speaking of free speech, I reserve the right to criticise the content of the mainstream media and any other media organisation. I reserve the right of others to criticise the Richie Allen Show and our content. I get emails all the time. I get emails from friends. Did you hear what this guy said on this YouTube account about you? No, I didn't, and I couldn't give a shit, because he or she has the absolute right to criticise the opinions heard on this programme. But let's have some critical thinking here. Let's have some critical thinking here. Let's have the courage to look ourselves in the mirror and acknowledge and admit we might have gotten it wrong. Don't take it personally when somebody criticises something which you have held dear to yourself. How dare you take it personally? Engage in a bit of critical thinking here. InfoWars admitted they lose $3 million from the AdRoll decision. Remember, they have multiple income streams. Their turnover is in the tens of millions of dollars a year. They were given an interview by a presidential candidate whom they now support unequivocally. And you think they are fucking alternative news? Give me a break. That's enough of InfoWars today. We're going to have a very quick break. When I come back, we're going to talk about the escalation of the propaganda war on Syria. This is your Richie Allen Show for Thursday, February 23rd, 2017. I'm Richie Allen, back in 2 minutes.
Jim Rickards here, best-selling author of Currency Wars and The Road to Ruin. But today I'm issuing a critical new warning to all British listeners. Britain is under attack, and your personal and financial security is in grave danger. To find out why, visit britainunderattack.co.uk now. The threat of this devastating attack increases every day, and it's crucial you act before it's too late. To see what you can do about it, visit britainunderattack.co.uk right away. It's not too late to prepare. See my full warning at britainunderattack.co.uk today.
Looking to arrange a mortgage? Confused by all the deals available? Let Manchester Mortgages do the work for you. Take advantage of our free mortgage review offer throughout February and March and see if we can save you money. We are whole-of-market brokers with access to hundreds of mortgage schemes across the UK. Call us on 0161 706 0242 or go to manchestermortgages.co.uk. Your home may be repossessed if you do not keep up repayments on your mortgage. Manchester Mortgages are a trading style of Mortgages for You North West Limited, who are authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority.
All eyes on Manchester, Saturday, March 4th, 2017. The Awakening at Bowler's Exhibition Centre, Manchester. Join the stars of the Ancient Aliens TV series and the leading figures in the field of ufology and ancient alien theories. Eric Von Daniken, author of the hit book Chariots of the Gods, and Emmy Award winner Linda Moulton Howe. Get tickets now at www.awakeningufo.com.
There's a place high in the mountains of Spain, a sanctuary where souls gather from all around the globe to learn about themselves and experience powerful changes in the way we see our world. They become awakened to their gifts and their power to heal others. Become part of this ever-growing worldwide family of unique, pure energy healing practitioners. Discover how amazing you truly are. Go to www.markbayerski.com. It could just change your life forever.
Broadcasting the information the mainstream media won't touch. This is The Richie Allen Show in association with DavidIke.com.
Yeah, for Thursday, February 23rd, 2017, I am Richie Allen, and it's good to be with you. Pre-recording the programme today, which is unusual. We prefer live. We'll be back broadcasting live again before you know it. Now, talking about propaganda before the break, speaking of it, the media-led propaganda war on Syria, which is, I believe, the forerunner to an invasion of that country, shows no sign of letting up. Now, we gave extensive coverage 2 weeks ago to the claim made by Amnesty International that between 5,000 and 13,000 civilians or opponents of Bashar Al Assad had been hung in weekly execution events at Sednaya prison. Now, Amnesty offered no proof of this 2 weeks ago. They didn't, by the way. That's not a subjective opinion. They did not offer any proof. It was all hearsay. No bodies, no proof. We showed how Amnesty is funded primarily by the US and UK governments, making any claims made by that organisation against Syria, basically a nonsense. Now, Sky News is leading the charge in demonising the Assad government. Yesterday, they interviewed Abdulaziz Al-Mashi, the co-founder of the Syria Solidarity Campaign. Sky News, I believe, are absolutely shameless. Have a listen to the way they introduced Abdulaziz Al-Mashi. Listen.
Well, let's get more on our top story now. A woman who was only 15 years old when she was taken by Syrian security forces and put in prison has told Sky News of the endless cycle of torture that she witnessed. Amnesty International says jails run by President Assad's regime are where the government quietly slaughters its own people. Joining us now is Abdulaziz Al-Mashi, co-founder of the Syria Solidarity Campaign. Thanks for your time. You have direct second-hand experience of what goes on in these jails. Perhaps you can tell us about it.
What the fuck was that? How do you get second-hand experience of anything? He's been quietly slaughtering people, quietly slaughtering. How do you quietly slaughter anybody? How the fuck do you get second-hand experience of somebody getting killed in a jail somewhere? Tell you more on that in a minute. In the meantime, this is the direct answer to that question given by the co-founder of the Syria Solidarity Campaign, Abdulaziz Al-Mashi.
Yes, my uni mate, Majid Mar'i, he was captured by the Syrian security forces back in 2011 because he posted some comments on Facebook criticizing the government. And he was tortured to death. In 2015, his family were informed he died in a prison. And his body wasn't handed over to his family because, they used torture against him. And they just didn't want any photos of his body to be published to the world. And if you look at the Syrian regime, this isn't something new. The Syrian regime has been using torture in jails systematically even before the start of the revolution.
What? Even before the start of the revolution, there was systematic torture and murder in Syria? First of all, there's no revolution. Syria has been invaded. It's been invaded. But why didn't we hear about the torture and murder systematic in Syrian jails pre-2011? Where was Amnesty then? This is bollocks. As we've pointed out on this programme, I don't know, maybe 1,000 times, the United Nations repeatedly praised Assad, the ophthalmologist, remember, the reluctant president, remember, given the job because his brother died unexpectedly, the man who was reforming the country politically and moving it away from an autocracy. The man had no desire, he had no appetite to be in charge. And did Abdulaziz Al-Mashi actually say that the man murdered, that he has second-hand knowledge of, did he say he was his uni mate?
Yes, my uni mate, Majid Mar'i.
What? The fuck is that? My uni mate. And guess what? Mr. Abdulaziz Al-Mashi, traitor to the Syrian people, is a computer science PhD student who came to the UK from Syria in 2009 when everything was fine, never breathed a fucking word about Syria then, had nothing to say. I've done extensive research. Nothing to say. In any students' union lefty-type meetings about wars and about democracies, never opened his fucking mouth in 2009, 2010. And he's not been back to Syria since. He co-founded Syria Solidarity. Apparently he's got brothers working in medicine. Apparently. A traitor to his own people. And from the comfort of his own home in London, he tells the mainstream media what it wants to hear about Syria. Lovely. Lovely. The regime is killing people. How do you know, Abdulaziz? When was the last time you were back? And again, how do you get second-hand knowledge of somebody being tortured and killed? Explain the term second-hand knowledge. Now, last week, Bashar Al Assad gave an interview to French journalists where he addressed the allegations made by Amnesty. This is what he said.
Yeah, there's a difference between me and you talking about facts in Syria or talking about allegations. If you want to talk about allegations, we can spend the time talking about allegations, never-ending allegations. Anyone can say whatever he wants, and we can discuss it. But in that case, we're not going to talk about facts. But if you want to talk about Amnesty, because Amnesty is known around the world, it's shameful for such organization to build a report on allegations. If you take any allegations to a court in your country, you have court, you have judicial system. Could they take any decision regarding allegations, or they have to look for the evidence? This report built on allegations, not single shred of document, not single evidence. They didn't say 13,000, they said between 5,000 and 13, which is double and half the number. It means it's not precise. There's no mentioning of names of anyone who's from the victim, only 36 out of 10 of those 1,000. And there's many flaws. They said, for example, the Grand Mufti is endorsing the execution. The religious figures in Syria has nothing to do with any judicial process. The execution in Syria is legal. It's part of the law since the independence. So the government can execute anyone legally. Why to do it illegal?
He's right. Allegations, allegations, allegations with no substance and no proof. But is it black and white, Richie? Are you trying to tell us that the Syrian government forces are saints? No, I'm not. That would be ludicrous. Have they, in theatre, committed atrocities? Yes, they bloody well have. And I've spoken about this before. One night, in fact, at length, I talked about nationalists in Ireland back in the early part of the 20th century. Now, I support a united Ireland. And some of my heroes, my childhood heroes, I used to read books about, people who stood up to British imperialism in Ireland. Okay, Michael Collins, of course. Maud Gonne. I could be here all day talking about people. James Connolly. But am I naive enough to believe that nationalists in Ireland didn't do unspeakable things to people whom they suspected of collaborating with the British Empire? I would be a liar. Of course they did. It happens. I'm not excusing it. War crimes, brutality, torture is disgusting. But who started it? What happened that led Syria to the condition it finds itself in today? That's not to excuse anybody who commits atrocities. And do I have a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of sympathy, a tiny bit, for those whose allegiance is to Syria, whose allegiance is to the Syrian people? Do I have a tiny bit of sympathy for them when you hear stories that maybe those who have collaborated with Islamic State or who have collaborated with Western forces in Syria, do I have a tiny, tiny bit of sympathy when you learn that they murdered those people, called them traitors and murdered them judiciously? Not easy for me to say. I wouldn't say I have sympathy for them because I'd be a hypocrite, but I understand it. Now, torturing somebody to death, beating them up, waterboarding them, sticking pins in them. No, I have no time for that. It ain't black and white. Who started it? And don't you love these guys, Abdulaziz Al-Mashi, hiding out in London, making up stories at the behest of the NATO countries about atrocities in Syria that they have no direct knowledge of. Madness. On that story, RT America are reporting that the United States wants to send more troops into Syria. There are already 500 troops there illegally. You probably know that by now. This is a very important report. You may have missed it. You'll hear the anchor first, then you'll hear Gayan Chichikian, who I think is a very, very good journalist indeed.
The U.S. is ready to scale up its operations against Islamic State in Syria by sending more troops. That's according to the head of the U.S. Central Command.
I'm very concerned about maintaining momentum. It could be that we take on a larger burden ourselves. We might bring potentially more of our assets to bear if we need to, as opposed to relying on our partners. That's an option.
The United States already has about 500 special operations troops in Syria, and they're already operating there without the permission of the Syrian government. The tensions related to this could escalate given the many groups operating in Syria that have different goals. Throughout the war, the U.S. has supported anti-government forces. The U.S. Special Ops goal on the ground, though, is to take on ISIL in Raqqa, the terrorist organization's self-proclaimed capital. U.S. officials now say they expect Syrian Kurdish and Arab fighters, notably rebels, to play the leading role in seizing Raqqa. But as the head of the CENTCOM said, the U.S. could take on a larger role. That could mean more troops. The U.S. suffered its first combat death in Syria last November as a service member was killed by an improvised explosive device set up by ISIL in the north of the country. The prospect that the U.S. may send more troops to Syria comes in the wake of another initiative that the Trump administration is suggesting, that is, of establishing safe zones in Syria. According to Donald Trump, it would be paid for by the Gulf states, and it would be for displaced persons inside Syria. There's no indication at this time that Gulf states would pay. The Syrian government already indicated that it would see it as a hostile act and a violation of its sovereignty if done without Syria's permission.
So let me get this straight then. Trump, the anti-establishment man who puts military men in positions traditionally given to private citizens, the man who has given the economy to Goldman Sachs, the man who said in the campaign that we should get out of these countries, that America wouldn't continue its interventionist policies. This is now the man who wants to partition the country. Why? Well, because Benjamin Netanyahu wants to partition Syria. And Trump now has these generals openly talking about sending more troops to that country. Now, you might remember the Donald in the campaign. Remember this Donald? The Donald who fooled most of the so-called alternative media. Remember him? He was saying this type of thing most of the campaign, which lasted, of course, nearly 2 years.
We are going to get bogged down in Syria. If you look at what happened with the Soviet Union in Afghanistan, that's when they went bankrupt. They went bankrupt. They were there so long,
so you think
so hard.
You think Putin's going to get suckered into
They're going to get bogged down. Everybody that's touched the Middle East, they've gotten bogged down. Now, Putin wants to go in. Putin does not want ISIS. I know they haven't hit him as hard as they should be hitting him because
they're hitting Assad. They're hitting people we've trained.
Excuse me. They're hitting people. We're talking about people that we don't even know.
Right.
The rebel group, we have no idea. I was talking to a general 2 days ago. He said, we have no idea who these people are. We're training people. We don't know who they are. We're giving them billions of dollars to fight Assad. And you know what? It's very possible. I'm not saying Assad's a good guy because he's probably a bad guy. But I've watched him interviewed many times. And you can make the case, if you look at Libya, look what we did there. Mm-hmm. It's a mess. If you look at Saddam Hussein with Iraq, look what we did there. It's a mess. It's going to be the same thing.
Do you think the Middle East would be better today if Gaddafi, Saddam, and Assad were sort of, if Saddam and Gaddafi were still there, and Assad were stronger?
Not even
Do you think the Middle East would be safer?
It's not even a contest, Jack. It's not even a contest. Iraq is a disaster. And
So
ISIS
it'd be better
came
off
out,
if Saddam were
Don't
in
forget,
charge.
ISIS came out of Iraq.
Right.
It was
No, I
like the
understand.
leftovers that didn't get
Well, let me
taken
button this
care
up.
of.
If Saddam and Gaddafi, you think things would be more stable?
We won't get fooled again, eh? You know what? When I think about that, we won't get fooled again. That's even more bollocks. Because the same old fakers, the same old mainstream light producers, the same old wannabe celebrities in the independent media will keep getting fooled and fooled and fooled and keep supporting billionaire establishment goons like Donald Trump. Madness. And on that today, on Syria and Iraq, the Daily Mail reported today, the headline on the Mail, secret RAF drone strikes take out British jihadis. Our pilots working their way through a kill list of UK fanatics fighting ISIS in Iraq and Syria. RAF pilots using drones and fighter jets have been secretly assassinating British jihadists plotting UK terror attacks from bases in Syria and in Iraq. Just murdering people. Extrajudicially. Or extrajudicially, I should say. Extrajudicially. Just murdering people. And even murdering people fighting against ISIS in Iraq and in Syria. Heroes in uniforms are sitting in cubicles playing video games. Bombing into fucking pieces British citizens. Some world we live in, eh? The Mail said that neither Parliament nor the public has been informed of this. You might remember back in 2015 there was uproar, at least here there was anyway, when Cameron, who was still Prime Minister then, said that the UK had gone and used military force in Syria without the approval of MPs. 3 fanatics from Britain were killed in drone strikes. No evidence was ever presented to the British people to prove that these men, and sometimes women, represented a clear and present danger to my security and to your security. We just blew them the fuck up. Because we said so. The pilots, apparently, according to the Mail, are operating these drones from a hangar at RAF Waddington in Lincolnshire, 3,000 miles away from Syria. What fucking cowards, eh? What fucking cowards. Engage the target. Couldn't do it, could you? They could court-martial me, they could fire me, they could dishonourably discharge me. There is no fucking way that I'm going to say, yeah, okay, I'll fire on those unarmed men whom at the moment don't appear to be doing anything illegal. What a world. You're with the Richie Allen Show for Thursday, 23rd of February 2017. Going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the transgender agenda, because this is one that just won't go away.
Jim Rickards here, best-selling author of Currency Wars and The Road to Ruin. But today I'm issuing a critical new warning to all British listeners. Britain is under attack and your personal and financial security is in grave danger. To find out why, visit britainunderattack.co.uk now. The threat of this devastating attack increases every day, and it's crucial you act before it's too late. To see what you can do about it, visit britainunderattack.co.uk right away. It's not too late to prepare. See my full warning at britainunderattack.co.uk today.
Looking to arrange a mortgage? Confused by all the deals available? Let Manchester Mortgages do the work for you. Take advantage of our free mortgage review offer throughout February and March and see if we can save you money. We are whole-of-market brokers with access to hundreds of mortgage schemes across the UK. Call us on 0161 706 0242 or go to manchestermortgages.co.uk. Your home may be repossessed if you do not keep up repayments on your mortgage. Manchester Mortgages are a trading style of Mortgages for You North West Limited, who are authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority.
All eyes on Manchester, Saturday, March 4th, 2017. The Awakening at Boulders Exhibition Centre, Manchester. Join the stars of the Ancient Aliens TV series and the leading figures in the field of ufology and ancient alien theories. Eric Von Daniken, author of the hit book Chariots of the Gods, and Emmy Award winner Linda Moulton Howe. Get tickets now at www.awakeningufo.com.
There's a place high in the mountains of Spain, a sanctuary where souls gather from all around the globe to learn about themselves and experience powerful changes in the way we see our world. They become awakened to their gifts and their power to heal others. Become part of this ever-growing worldwide family of unique, pure energy healing practitioners. Discover how amazing you truly are. Go to www.markbayerski.com. It could just change your life forever.
For critical information ignored by the mainstream media, log on to davidicke.com/headlines now. Richie Allen.
Welcome back. Thursday, February 23rd, 2017. Doing this pre-recorded because our streaming server is being changed and updated with software, and we were having some problems with it. And we'll be back broadcasting live for Sunday View this coming Sunday morning, all going well. I don't see a problem with that. So there you go. David, of course, is back on the road real soon. Go to theworldwidewakeup.com to check out where he's going to be. On March 19th, he's in Slovenia. March 26th, he's in Iceland at Reykjavik. What a fantastic talk that's going to be with everything going on in Iceland. Gothenburg then into mid-April. Serbia, Canada for a couple of dates. France, Germany, Slovakia. More and more dates being added all the time. He'll be touring into 2018, have no doubt about that. My name is Richie Allen. Thank you for listening to this. And again, apologies that you can't interact on Twitter while you do so. We do need your support, folks, from time to time. I haven't made an appeal for funding for a long time. Please go to paypal.me/Richie Allen, paypal.me, paypal.me/Richie Allen. Make a contribution if you can. If you can't, don't worry about it. And thanks to those who've contributed in the past. Going to finish with this then on this very, very wild, wet, windy, stormy, Storm Doris type day here in Manchester. I'm going to leave you with this story. We've been covering this issue as well of late. Donald Trump's government has revoked guidance to US public schools that allowed transgender students to use toilets matching their gender identity. This guidance, issued by Barack Obama, had been hailed as a victory for transgender rights. But critics said it threatened other students' privacy and safety and should be decided at state level. Obama's directive had sparked backlash across the country with legal challenges from 13 states. The latest change will have no immediate impact because Obama's directive has already been temporarily blocked by a judge in Texas since August. Yesterday, the Trump administration sent a letter to US schools outlining the change, saying the previous measure had caused confusion. It also sparked lawsuits and debate over how it should work in practice. Now, last May, even Obama's Justice and Education departments instructed public schools to allow transgender students to use whichever bathroom corresponded to their gender identity. In plain English, to use whatever bathroom they bloody well liked. Now, the BBC loved this story. They've been covering it a lot on their TV and radio news shows. They sent somebody to North Carolina to cover it yesterday. They sent back this report. This is very, very interesting.
Luke Duvey is 17. He plays in his school band, loves his dog, and has a supportive family. He was also born female, though never identified as a girl, and is now going through the medical process of gender transition. But Luke's state has just passed a law that says that he and others who are transgender have to use public bathrooms for the sex they were born with, not what they identify as.
Dressed like this, I don't want to go to the girls' bathroom because I'll just be shunned by my peers then. They'll kind of be like, what are you doing? Yeah. But then if I go to the guys' bathroom and somebody, say, who knows that I'm transgender and doesn't like me, they could out me very easily, and I could get suspension from school temporarily for having to go to the bathroom.
There have been demonstrations against the new measures, but not just on the streets here. Bruce Springsteen and Ringo Starr are among those who've cancelled performances in North Carolina in protest. PayPal and Deutsche Bank have said they're pulling investments out of the state unless the law's overturned. Well, a lot of the focus has been on the issue of what bathroom can be used by members of the transgender community, but actually this is about much more than that. For people across North Carolina, this law takes away protection against discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation that had been provided by other local laws.
Now you're going to hear from a guy called Paul Stam. Paul Stam is a North Carolina House of Representatives politician. He's a state politician in North Carolina. Paul Stam. Listen to him.
That affects the many employees here from LGBT communities, as we heard very frankly from one of the politicians who pushed through the new law.
I think that an employer has the right to choose who the employer wants to work, unless it's a matter of race, color, national origin, biological sex, or religion.
You think it's okay for an employer to say, I don't want to hire a gay employee?
Yeah.
Yes.
Paul Stamps, the good old southern boy there, should get the biggest kick in the arse from the biggest, blackest gay man that ever lived. Because I'm sure he's got problems with African Americans as well. Paul Stamps, an idiot. Saying people should be allowed to discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation is idiocy. You know, a man or woman, you and I agree with this, has the right to be whoever they are, without somebody denying them access to a job if they are qualified to do it. Right? Saying that you can't work here because you're gay is wrong. Now, where you can prove that discrimination, and it is very difficult to prove it, I'm sure somebody who came across in the past is maybe, you know, you might have a man, he might have, you know, an effeminate way about him. He might not be gay, funnily enough, but he might have an effeminate character, might be softly spoken. Somebody might think he's gay. Somebody might not like that, and they might disqualify him from the process. That is wrong. It's very difficult to prove, but it's wrong, in my opinion. It's none of your business what they are. Can he, she do the job? Can they? Can he or she do? Can they do it? Brilliant. Couldn't give a shit what they do in their private life. That's what I've always believed. But this transgender thing, we should use the toilets we want. We can take offence if we are referred to as he or she. I want to be called they. I am non-binary. I don't identify. Change the law for me. Do you know what I was thinking today? And this does bother me. And at the risk of offending people, maybe I shouldn't worry too much about offending people. How about fuck off and be whoever and whatever you want to be, without inflicting it on me and telling me how I should walk on eggshells around you? How about that? How about you use the male toilets if you have a penis and the female toilets if you have a vagina? How about that? Or if you have a vagina but you look very much like a man, how about be discreet and use a cubicle and stop looking for attention? How about that? I couldn't give a damn, really. You know? How about stop looking for day-to-day discrimination where there is none whatsoever? How about you accept that the vast, vast majority of people like me couldn't give a shit what you are, so long as you are nice? Simple as that. You identify as a man? Good for you. You identify as a woman, but you were born a man? Good for you. Couldn't care less. Good luck. I'll have a beer with you. Don't tell me what I can do and what I can't do. Don't tell me you'll walk into whatever bathroom you feel like it. Don't tell me I'm discriminating against you if I don't call you they or their. Fucking plural term. Nonsense. Of course, I looked up the statistics because that's what I like to do. A report in the US in 2011 suggested that 0.3% of Americans said they were transgender. 0.3%. In total in 2011, which is 6 years ago, there might have been a slight increase. 3.8% said they were gay or lesbian. So let's say 0.3% then. We want to introduce transgender awareness in schools, right? We want to ask children as young as 6, as young as 7, to choose from a list of genders even. Yeah? Can anybody see what the real agenda is here? The elimination of gender? And the relationship that agenda has with the transhumanist agenda? Is it just us? Is it just the people whose books I've been reading that can see through what's going on here? Staggering, isn't it? Staggering. Let's change educational policy across the whole country for 0.3% of the population. And let me tell you something, because I know people. I've been a journalist for a long time. I've met people from all walks of life, all ethnicities, all types of sexual orientation. Of the 0.3% of Americans who said they were transgender, and that's about 950,000, I bet you 920,000 of them are fucking horrified. Because most transgender men and women are like most of us. They're decent. They don't want to inflict their way of life. They don't want to inflict their opinions on other people. So where's it coming from? Guarantee you next time you're in town and you're in a gay bar or an LGBT bar, and if you get talking to a transgender man or woman, they'll tell you this is mad bollocks. This is bollocks, they'll tell you. That was Thursday's Richie Allen Show in association with DavidIke.com. Thank you so much for downloading it, listening to it online, YouTube or Podomatic, wherever you happened to grab it today. I've enjoyed chatting to you about these stories. Follow all these stories and much more at davidike.com/headlines. Please do that. You and I will talk again on Sunday morning live at 11 a.m. GMT with Sunday View, which I'm looking forward to. Will be set up again and rocking and rolling again on the live stream. Until then, please have a marvellous weekend. Look after yourselves and one another. And I can't wait for Sunday. Bye for now. Try that again, will I?
Is the Richie Allen Show in association with DavidIke.com.
It goes wrong sometimes. Have a good weekend. Bye for now. Bye.